Hi everyone, I'm Alicia Fiorletta, Associate Editor of Retail TouchPoints, and right now I have Peter Rivera with me, and he's VP and Creative Director of Infusion. Peter, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you know, at Retail TouchPoints we cover a lot of the high-level trends that are taking place in the retail world, and as you know, we're in a constant state of change, it seems like. So, you know, to start a conversation, I'd love to hear your perspectives on the trends that are happening in the retail world, and more importantly, the consumer world, how they're changing the ways they browse and buy in this hyper-connected age.
Yeah, consumers have always wanted control, and all of these emerging interactive technologies are making it more possible for us to have the customer part of the experience and really directing the experience. So that's not just an empty word. We believe that we're in the experience economy now. It's been talked about for quite some time. And we finally have arrived at this point where to differentiate yourself in a world of commodity, you have to have the best experience in the marketplace. Consumers are now expecting that. And they want to have control over the experience. They want to have a high degree of personalization. They want to have an experience that really feels like it's mapped to them and what their needs are. And that's a key part of our process and the way that we approach things, is trying to understand the brand and what the brand and the business is trying to get out of an initiative, but also try to understand, what are the unmet consumer needs that are out there, and how can we personalize an experience and give some control to the consumer. That's regardless of whether it's a gesture experience or whether it's a touch experience. And we're also seeing, as a manifestation of that control, that mobility is obviously a very, very big part of it. Everybody now is walking around with a very, very powerful device in their hands that gives them that control, where they can shop right on site and do price comparisons while they're in a store, or they can see associated merchandise that matters to them. So we're trying to take advantage of those trends, and that's predominantly what's going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's definitely evident that technology is playing an even more pivotal role in the whole brand and retail experience. You touched on mobility, obviously, which is a huge piece of that. So, I'd love to learn more about what Infusion does. I mean, in terms of helping retailers sort of keep pace with all of these technological trends, because it seems like those forward-thinking retailers, those best-in-classers, are really trying to embrace technology, or considering how to embrace technology within the store to make it more interactive and personalized, as you said before.
Well, Infusion broadly is an innovation company. It's our job to stay on top of emerging trends relative to technology and what brands can do with that technology. We've got offices around the world to do that, in Dubai, London, Toronto, New York, and several other locations. What we do, as I mentioned before, is really try to humanize the technology, find the right context. We often don't start with, hey, you need a tablet, or you need this. Even though the technology is flashy and interesting, and it's usually the first place that people want to start with, I think it gets back to just literally understanding your customer and what the right triggers for them are, and how they're going to feel connected to your brand. And then out of that, we map that to all the research that we do relative to what's happening. So here in our offices, actually, where this interview is taking place, we have a whole variety of different technologies that you can actually touch, that executives coming from different industries can actually see in action. These are solutions that have been built. These are solutions that have been deployed. So I think one of the differentiators for us is that we can build the things that we come up with, and we deploy them at scale. Our experiences are in hundreds of stores, and that's giving us a unique insight into actually what works and what doesn't work. So beyond the sizzle and the sex appeal of a lot of these different emerging technologies, we want to do things that are actually going to matter to our clients' businesses, and that's just how we're wired. And we also just want to get stuff done. We're not into vaporware or just creating demos just for the sake of it, or PowerPoint decks. We really want to build stuff, and I think that that's really inherent in the culture of the company, is the desire to really want to make things. So smart definition and strategy, great design, but then we code it, we make it, and then we deploy it at scale, and that in a nutshell is what Infusion does.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a really good point. I mean, with all of these new technology trends, I mean, especially mobility, again, it all seems to tie back to mobility. It seems like a lot of retailers just want to hop on the bandwagon, but they're also overwhelmed because they don't know how to execute it. They don't know, what would be most effective for their target customer base. So it really does stem back to starting with the customer and understanding their wants and needs. I mean, that seems to be the foundation for a successful implementation.
Well, yes, and then the inverse of that is what is the platform that is underlying everything? As we'll see in our Build-A-Bear example overall, in working with that client, it was really defining an entire platform. I like to call it groundwater. Underneath all the different applications that are in that store is a technical platform that's holding it all together and allowing this personalized experience to even happen. So you have to have a very, very good technical strategy as well. You're gathering all of this information about what people are doing, how long they're spending doing it, what they're buying, when are they arriving, when are they, how long are they staying, where are they moving in a store, and you've got to have an underlying platform that actually allows you to act on that, that intelligence that's coming in. So you really have to have a solid and cogent technical strategy on top of that consumer strategy, and so it's combining those two things together. I think that makes a huge difference.
All right, excellent. A lot of really great stuff there. But, obviously just with your wide range of work with retailers, obviously you touched a little bit on the Build-A-Bear example. But, what are you seeing from a trend standpoint? I mean, what are retailers really asking Infusion for, or what are their core wants and needs when they first, start the conversation with you guys?
Well, a lot of them are just right now, and there's been an amazing groundswell, I would say, in the last 6 months relative to interest in creating far more immersive experiences within brick-and-mortar stores. The onslaught of e-commerce, is obviously it's siphoning people away from coming into a store, and so we're getting back into really trying to create experiences.
Right.
Being able to go into a store and have a real experience. And the executives that we're talking to really want to bring their brands to life in a very, very meaningful way. And in a humanistic way, so that almost the technology is invisible, but that people are having just an amazing experience. Whether it's enabling the sales staff to be able to, speak more directly to that consumer's needs when they're in the store, or whether it's the consumer themselves being able to have control over what they're buying and how their overall store experience flows. And we'll bring that to life in just a second when we do our tour.
All right, excellent. And yeah, we're hearing more and more about the omni-channel consumer, the shopper who's hopping from channel to channel with not much, rhyme or reason, but they still expect that unified brand experience.
That's
and
right.
I think you're right in that retailers are starting to take note of that, and they're trying to keep pace. But looking to the future, what do you think trends will start to come more to the forefront in this coming year, or even in the years to come? I mean, we're hearing more about trying to blur the lines between the web, mobile, social, and the store. But is that something that you think is going to be getting momentum in the coming year?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of inquiries about what's called responsive design, which is basically how can the enterprise create a digital experience that actually extends across devices without a lot of reinvestment and without a lot of maintenance. That's a pragmatic and a very, very important base level. But we're also seeing that the biggest trend, to some extent, is that the world around you can really come to life. Whether it's through augmented reality, the ability to be able to layer things, over the world that we live in, and enhance that, with a whole variety of different experiences. So whether we're doing it on tabletops, through projection, through I would say in the next few years you're going to see us with the glasses and maybe the contact lenses. So we're going to get very, very cool and Blade Runner-esque on some of this stuff. But in the end, I think we can't lose sight of the fact that people are the ones that are actually using this, and it has to remain very human-centered in the way that we actually approach it. So I would say beyond responsive design to augmented to surfaces coming alive. Been hearing a lot about even clothing that speaks to you. Everything speaking to something else. And what really, as I said before, powers that is this underlying data structure. And the brands that figure out a way of tapping into that to create a richer experience for their consumers are the ones that are going to win.
Absolutely, Peter. A lot of really great points, and it is an incredibly exciting time for retailers.
It is, absolutely. And for us, as we're working with so many of them now that that we're able to apply a lot of this research and cutting edge stuff that we're doing and actually build these things. So it's been a really exciting time for the company.
Yeah, absolutely. And you provide a lot of really great perspectives, obviously, from being in the center of all these great innovations and helping retailers along the way. So thank you so much again, Peter, for opening your office to us and
appreciate it.
walking us through all of these great experiences. And thanks everyone out there for watching.